Welcome to the Do Good Work Podcast. Today I'm talking to Kelley Thornton. Kelley is the CEO and founder of Tiege Hanley, a 6-year-old e-commerce company with a mission of helping men look and feel amazing. With over 350,000 customers worldwide, Kelley is on a mission to enrich the experience for all customers and guiding men to a healthier lifestyle founded on self-confidence. Kelley, welcome to the pod.
Thanks for having me.
I always find it fascinating and inspiring to hear founders who just step away from what they're doing to start something new. Not only is it easier to say that, but just living through that moment. I want to go back to 2016 where you saw an opportunity to what now is Tiege. Walk us through, what does it look like stepping away from what you're doing? The tenacity or the courage you must have had to be able to look at a new opportunity, jump into it. And what was that process like?
I'd actually like to go back a little bit earlier to 2009, to when I left corporate after 19 years. I think for me, Raul, the process is, I've used this analogy before. I think it's probably not a good analogy, but it's almost deciding to quit drinking alcohol. You have to come to this real strong realization that you want to make this significant change in your life. And then I think it takes like months of maturation with the thought, right? It takes all this time. And then you start like thinking about, how am I going to do it? What's all the downside? What happens if it doesn't work? All of these things. And for me, the first time I left the corporate world, to go into my second venture, which was in 2009, my second company that I owned, it was almost a year-long process. As a matter of fact, I remember being on the phone with HR, asking them about some benefit questions about like 6 months from when I wanted to kind of embark on my own. And I kind of realized that might take longer than 6 months. I'm like thinking, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I have the guts to wait it out. So it's a really hard decision, depending on where you are in your career and your life.
I'm really glad that because this speaks more about your personality and your approach, which I think is a very practical approach to these things. It's not just the one and done jump all in parachute. Maybe I have it, maybe it deploys, maybe it doesn't. And I hear those stories a lot from other founders and other podcasts, but I feel like what you're saying is a real raw thing that even I went through, but it's also around contemplating the decision, looking through every option. And when you decided to punch through and go to the other side, what was that like?
Yeah. Well, there was this incredible amount of relief in the first few months. It almost felt like, for me, like time started standing still. For the next 3 or 4 months, when I really started my business, I felt like I've been working so hard, and I don't want to be misunderstood here. And I was just preparing for the moment of kind of starting a business, again, my second entity. And it was just like this kind of feeling of relief and calmness and excitement. It was a really special time in my life, actually. It was the summer of 2009, and it was just great. It was a really great, I was kind of off this high of working 19 years, or on this, off this working for 19 years at a corporate, and then preparing myself for the next 10 years, really, of that experience. And I will tell you, like you said something interesting, Raul. I think like everybody, there's no straight line, right? Everybody's path is different. Everybody's path is their path. My path is going to be different from other people's paths. Entrepreneurs tend to be younger because they tend to be more, it's all about risk, right? It's all about your risk profile. So I think younger people, we have less downside risk. So when I was a little bit older, and so that's why I was much more contemplative about the process. I was much more stressed about actually making that initial leap. And I think that's why I felt really had a very feeling of calmness over the next several months.
I think that's key too. And I think it's also situation in life, not just like the age piece, but you're 100% right. The other side of this, though, it's also having confidence in the future and in the opportunity. And I think we can either talk about purchase point if you want, or we can also talk about your current company, Tiege. But there's something there in the marketplace that you saw in terms of need, product market fit, customer needs, et cetera, that kind of gives you that confidence when you're jumping into something. It's not and ambiguous, right? And I
Yeah.
think you having the 19 years of experience actually puts you in a better position, because when I jumped from corporate, oh my gosh, first 6 months I was like, what am I doing? Right? You're trying to figure this out. And it was like I was fresh out of college. So I was a young buck. And then going back, wow, I would have done everything differently.
Yeah.
So I think there is that advantage too of knowing what needs to happen. But tell me more about, like, on the other side, what pulled you? What was the opportunity, or what were the things
Yeah.
that you saw differently? Because I think we have different lenses as an entrepreneur. What pulled you towards the opportunity?
Yeah. I mean, I've always been like very, I think we have to go to that confidence conversation, but I've always been very motivated. Like I'm a very motivated individual, driven, want to get up, want to kick ass every day. So I was like, really like, I know that I had a successful career with a company. And if I could just have, I remember saying this to my father, if I could just have a tenth of the level of economic success for myself that I brought to the company that I was working for. And I'm like, it's just a tenth. If I could do like a tenth of the success, financial success, I'd be more than enough to live on and be able to grow with and everything else. So I think that was what really pulled me. But the confidence question, that's a really great thing to kind of peel back the onion on, because there's this fine line between confidence, and being kind of arrogant. And you have to be really convinced. You have to really believe in yourself that you're going to be able to be successful and persevere. So that really takes a lot of effort. I was talking to Kara Golden yesterday, the founder of Hint, and she just has just this remarkable podcast and this remarkable story. But when she was asking me, like, what would I have told my younger version of myself? And I probably didn't give her, in hindsight, the answer that I wanted, but I felt like I was too arrogant early on, way early on. I felt like I was too arrogant in my career, which, I see cockiness in a lot of young professionals. I understand that, but turning that into confidence, I think, is what you need to figure out how to do.
I think this is key. And it's funny because it's like a subtle overtone of the product they actually do. You help people become more confident through the product. I mean, there's not intended, but that's actually, it's funny. But,
yeah, you nailed that.
But there's an interesting point, and I really want to lean into this before we dive into more of the e-commerce front. How do you balance that out? How did you personally, because there's not like a one way of doing all things, how did you personally balance that out? Because I know that when I started working on my mind and like how I thought about things and how I approach things, and actually it's not just mindset, but like the approach towards everything and changing my thinking, things change dramatically. And then you also see that financial success because of that. One of the things that I thought were the most powerful lesson is that confidence isn't geared in a job or in a stable job, in a stable economy or whatever. It's in the ability to produce. And if you know that you yourself can make things happen, thank God, have confidence in your ability, your health, your mind, your whatever situation, that you can actually make outcomes happen that were ones in your mind. So how did you balance that, or how would you navigate? Maybe you have team members that you're coaching and mentoring, or leaders that are running some of the departments. How are you helping them balance the tenacity, the somewhat cockiness can come out of it? And I get that too. I might still be living some of that. But how do you balance that towards the humility that's necessary? Because things will hit the fan, things are going to get difficult, and things will hit a wall. But how do you navigate through those two tensions?
Yeah, oh my God. This is a very challenging question. I think I might give you not the best answer, but like it comes from experience.
Yeah.
You do need to get smacked down a little bit. You need failure in your life. And out of failure typically comes the confidence that you need to persevere, and the grittiness that's necessary is if you're going to be out on your own, no matter if you're just a one man or one woman show, having a consulting business or something like that, or if you're trying to run a huge business, you need that experience of failure and to build your confidence. On the cocky, arrogant side, I think experience helps there too. And there comes a point, I think, when you look around and you've got enough experience that you realize there's so many people that have come before you that are smarter than you, that have done the exact same thing, that do things better than you do, or your organization does, that have certainly had more financial success than you have. So there's all these things. And when you start, getting a little bit of experience and seeing that the world is a really big place, I think it starts helping with that balance, right?
Yeah.
You fail a little bit, you realize, you learn from your mistakes through experience, and then you look around and see the world's a huge place, and there's a lot of people that can pretty much kick your ass. So I think that over time, the balance of that kind of helps. For me, moving to Chicago, I moved from kind of the New York area. One thing I think that's a lure to cities for business people like you and I is like the concept of it being like the great equalizer. I don't know, Raul, if you feel that way with kind of your network and where you live, but Chicago's a great equalizer. There could be a guy that I live next door to that could be 30 years old and be completely retired. Yeah. Like just, he's done. And there's other people that are 2 doors down that sold their company for $100 million. And there's another guy that just sold his house because he couldn't afford to live there because he just lost his business. It's like the great equalizer. Yeah. And you never know at any given point in time who you're talking to.
They don't show it too. Yeah, they don't show it all the time. Like,
bingo.
Yeah. No, that's going back to the other point about the experience. I think key takeaways there is auditing your own past experiences. The hardest lesson is knowing that success, the prerequisite to success is failure. It's easier to say that. It's easy for me to say that. But when I lived through that, man, that punch in the face was very difficult, right? So it's definitely a true lesson though. But also talking to other people, if you don't have the experience, go find the experience with someone else, take someone out to coffee, get that mentorship, get that support, and having that almost like wise counsel around you as you go out and start breaking and building things. And I think that's important. On the great equalizer part, dude, I feel that even just the membership groups that I'm part of or communities, like, wait, why am I even here? Like, I went to a conference, right? And everyone there is like an all-star. I'm like, whoa, how it's insane.
Yeah, I belong to the Economics Club of Chicago, and I don't belong there. There's the people that are there are the tippity top of their career in every business, a CEO of State Farm and Aon and Pepsi. And I've heard like presidents speak, and I've heard Bono and everybody. Gwen from just recently from SpaceX, and there was like 30 people there, and she's talking to us. And I just don't belong there. It took me 10 years to get in there. I don't think I did because my friend finally was like on the nomination and board. It's humbling. You need to take perspective on where you are in life and how you fit into the ecosystem.
No, I like that. Actually, that was the perfect segue of what I was thinking around. And maybe there's a better way of saying this, but once you have that experience and you have that humbling moment and you identify, where do I fit? Not to say where's my place in life, because I think we can change that language, but I think it's more about where are you meant to be, where you can solve the most, do the most good with the types of people in the crew or the team, or if it's a solo gig and you're doing your own thing. When you find that, tell us about the journey of where you're at now, because I know that you stepped away again from 2016 from your company to start Tiege, and here you are, you're solving a problem. It's 6 years old, still young and up and coming, but it's 6 years old. You went through the milestone of 1 year, the 5-year mark, you're going to hit the 10-year mark, or probably because of that. So where are we with that?
I'm not sure if I totally understand your question, but like where am I with my confidence journey or my mission or what?
Good point. More about how did you find that niche, and how do you feel like that is, hey, this is my lane where I can be in? Is it more about this is my lane, or more this is an opportunity that I think is worth investing the rest of the decade for?
Yeah, the question specific about business, I really, what I'm doing now, I really like the space that I'm in. I like the brand side. I really enjoy digital marketing. I really enjoy being very close to customer. We're digital native companies, direct to consumer companies are really close to their customers, right? So Target's not my customer. The Rauls and the Joeys and the Abduls and the Sams of the world are my customers. And I really being very close to the customer. There's something very rewarding about that. I feel like we have this opportunity to really help the customer when they think about their skincare and their overall kind of like journey. So I really like that. On the other side of your question, like where am I at personally in my career and my mission and what I want to do, I really feel I have an opportunity to help, to have a company that actually does try to do good, does try to make morally and ethical decisions, that does try to do the best we can with how we handle employees, both from a development point of view and hiring point of view and nurturing, and also firing and parting ways if they're not having an opportunity to be their best selves at our company. And so I think that's very meaningful to me, like really trying my best to help people, because where I'm at in my career, I have a lot of people here at Tiege Hanley that are early on in their career. And so they have a long way to go. And I can look back over decades of experience and really feel at peace with all the things that I've done. So I really do want to focus on helping the people that are part of my team and helping me on my journey at Tiege.
Thank you for taking my kernel of a question and really flourishing it. That's really insightful. And I think, do you feel like this was a calling, or this was more of an opportunity that came up on it and then you made it your calling, or what was it?
Man, you ask these hard, deep questions. I don't know. I personally spiritually believe that we have a path laid out for us, and we have to live that path. I feel like I'm in the right place at the right time for myself.
Yeah.
So I think I'm doing the right thing, and I really feel at peace with myself over where my career is. I think it might almost be 3 years now. We had an summer intern in our operations team in packaging.
Yeah.
And at the end of the summer, the packaging team took her out to dinner. I went along, and this person really contributed. They really took their internship seriously, and they really contributed to the growth of our company. I went to dinner with them, and this person said, "Hey, I really enjoyed my internship. I learned a lot. My boss and the operations team really, I think, prepared me for my job, which I'm gonna graduate in a few months, and blah, blah, blah." And I said, "Great." And I said, "Was there anything else you want to tell me?" She goes, "I really feel like I could feel your spirituality and how you treated people." And I was like,
Dang.
This is like this 20-some-year-old person. And I was floored. Nobody in my entire career has ever made like any comment like that to me, and even remotely close. And it was very meaningful. I'm sharing it with you now, Raul. I mean, It's very meaningful that this was their personal perception of how I managed the company. And I felt that was like very rewarding, because I do try to do the right thing, and I do try to teach people and help people and treat them fairly. Believe me, I fired more people than I've hired. Yeah. So unfortunately, if I can continue to do that until this gig is up, I don't think I could ask for much more.
That's beautiful, man. That's fascinating, and a huge testament to your grounded leadership. So practically speaking, I help multiple teams. I'm in and out. I'm seeing what's going on. I come from the outside in. Fractional teams, part-time teams, dispersed leadership, decentralized, some people in person, et cetera, et cetera. One of let's just say the thread that weaves all together is the presence or the aura of the leader, to be able to set the culture, set the tone, set the mindset of the company almost, and how we want our people to behave, et cetera. How, maybe this is something you don't know the answer to, but I'd love to kind of understand, what are some of the key things that you take seriously, or that you approach with a certain level of intention, so that others can also see that there is a level of intentionality here, to take maybe the simple gig of packaging and then shipping out, or writing an email for a promotion next month, or writing the new ads that are going to come out, taking those everyday simple things that are part of the business, but putting a layer on top of the intentional, like, this is important. It's another person at the end of the screen. How do you transmit that? What are you doing right now that makes that difference? Because there's a key lesson here in leadership.
Yeah. So here it is. in any experience you have with any company, I'm confirming validating what you just said. That experience that you have with that company reflects how the leadership thinks.
Yeah.
And even in like massive organizations, it reflects kind of how the leadership team thinks and what they value, what they think is important. I spend an inordinate amount of time on culture, and culture is not just making sure that we have great coffee in our little break room. It's not just making sure that we are having birthday parties once a month, or we're having snacks in the office, or that we're going out socially once in a while. Culture is about having very explicit values. When I say explicit, I mean written values, like things that you say are your most important thing as a company. And then having a very clear mission. So we have 7 core values here as a company, core beliefs, such as act like an owner, connected to data, further together. These are examples of things that we believe and we say and we do all the time. So an example of that would be let's talk about failure. If I launch a program and I'm not successful in that program, and I'm your manager and we're discussing that program, what I might say was, in that particular program, we didn't do a good job as a team being connected to data. The data was showing us something else, but we kind of ignored that. We didn't stay true to who we are as a company. And so we strayed and we did something we probably shouldn't because we weren't staying core to who we are. And then we also say in the other way, that was you just made a decision, Raul, that I wouldn't have made. I wouldn't approach that way, but your way is just as good or better than my way. And that is a sure example of acting like an owner. You really did something that was really amazing. You really acted like an owner. So that's the way that from a culture standpoint that we really try, and it's not just one day, it's like every day we're talking about those things.
That's the key. That is the key right there, the repetition, right? And making the values the standards, not just, hey, you did this wrong because it's you, versus having an actual backing standard. And that's the shared agreement, right, between everyone, where we're going and also how we're getting there.
That's it.
I love it. I love that, man. Tell me, what's exciting you the most this season, this year, these next couple of years, maybe even the decade, for what you're doing with Tiege, and what's like the one project that's got you like super excited?
Yeah, I think I just love like where we're at. I think like the concept of self-care for men, self-care for everybody.
Yeah.
It's been brutal. The last several years with COVID and all of the impact of that has been so difficult on people's heads and their headspace. And it's just been very difficult. I see it in my family, myself, my children, people that work here. And so I think I feel good about coming out of that, but I really feel good about the fact that it's important to try in a very small, like pimple on an elephant's ass way, to do what we can do to help men, and we're a men's skincare company, feel as good as possible about themselves in a moment, in a single few moments of the day, to feel as good as they possibly can. And I think that this trend of self-care and mental health is still, there's still a lot of runway here. Yeah. Many years of runway. So I'm very excited about kind of what we're doing and what we're talking about and how we fit in a very small way. I'm very excited about that. There's a couple of things going on in marketing that I really like. We're going to be doing some TV stuff soon that I'm really kind of excited about, because we operate in so very narrow, as a digital marketer, you understand, so very narrow channels. If you're a guy and you live in Dallas and it's 5 p.m. and you're 35 years old, you're going to see an ad now. Yeah. So we focus on a very kind of narrow. So this is the first time we've ever really gone very broad with kind of our messaging. I'm looking forward to that.
Interesting. On the broad, there's an interesting trend. I won't name the company here, but you probably definitely know it, of creating new categories around self-acceptance versus the end outcome of who I could be and maybe never will be.
Yep.
So there's a huge trend there. I'm curious, as you're going broad, your positioning and your category, what's evolved there?
I don't know. I don't have any answer for you on that because we really haven't. I mean, there's a whole conversation to be had there around brand building for DTC brands and when it starts and you know how you develop brand building over time and where you take it and how much of your budget do you spend on that. And we have a very healthy multiple millions of dollars of advertising budget, and we really don't spend any money at the real top of the funnel in brand building. So
Yeah.
I really don't have an answer to you with what going broad could potentially look like because I really don't know.
That's a really cool unknown, and maybe we'll have you back once we do that. But one of the things that I've seen, especially since your market is huge, it's not just like a certain subset of the industry of the marketplace or wallet share. The one interesting trend, maybe this can help, but you already know this, is the broader you go, the softer the message becomes.
Interesting.
Yeah. And you know how, yeah, because I know you're in direct response. If you're doing this, here's the key, take an action now. And when you go niche, it's a very exact, pinpointed call to action, message, etc. The broader that we went and broader that I saw it was, it's just felt different from my ethos of the direct response in me. Like it's like so much softer and more broader, but that's just, it depends on your total addressable market. But it'd be cool to hear.
You sat in some of our marketing strategy meetings around our commercials. I think you've been in the room. Maybe Brianna from our marketing team's invited you into our room because those conversations, that is the topic du jour for the last couple of weeks. And no one's happy with the ads. Everybody has a different opinion about how specific and pointed and aggressive and call to action and everything else. So I appreciate you saying that because I do think the message feels pretty soft to me.
Yeah, I know it's because we have those blinders on. But hey, Kelley, for our audience here, what's the best place for people to, one, thank you for being on, and two, learn more about what you're up to?
Yeah, hit me up on LinkedIn. I have Instagram, and I have pictures of my dogs and kids on Instagram. I don't put anything, but I'm on LinkedIn a lot, and I'm producing some content there every week, and I get reached out to a lot there from people all around the world. I'm helping mentor some people or answer questions about stuff, and I'm very happy to do that in any way that I can help out. Please connect with me on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Put those links in the show notes. Thanks for being on, man. This was a really fun conversation.
Thanks, Raul. Awesome questions, man. I mean, going deep on me there. I don't think I'm prepared for those type of tough questions.
Oh, it was awesome.
If you found value in today's podcast, please consider sharing this with someone that you believe could also benefit from this episode. You never know, you may be the catalyst that opens them up to a new way of operating their business and experiencing life. As always, it's an honor to be a small part of your journey. This is Raul Hernandez. Do good work.